Right. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see y'all. And Michael, thanks for putting this together. This is a great idea, especially for what we're going through in our country. So I'm just going to give a little words of, I guess, a little words of encouragement. So there's a story about about a man who did landscaping for a college, a university. His job was to do the yard and to take care of everything on the yard. And one day, the wind was blowing really strong. And as the wind was blowing, um, his job that particular day was to rake leaves. And so I know y'all not used to working in the yard like that. None of y'all probably worked in the yard. But it's hard to rake leaves in windy weather, right? When you try to put the leaves in the bag, the wind is blowing. You're trying to rake, the wind is blowing the leaves everywhere. It's just frustrating raking leaves in windy weather. And so as he was trying to do it, he just gave up and he kind of leaned on the tree. And his supervisor came by. He said, "Why aren't you working?" He said, "Well, it's too difficult to rake leaves in windy weather." He said, "Well, you'll never get anywhere if you don't learn to rake leaves in windy weather." And so the things that we're dealing with and going through now is really trying to rake leaves in windy weather. Stuff is everywhere. We're trying to put things back in perspective. But I'm grateful for this group that you all are trying to rake these leaves in windy weather. And it can happen because there's no perfect circumstance, there's no perfect situation. And this is definitely not one of those. But you guys are raking leaves in windy weather. So I applaud you. And I want to encourage you to keep going even when conditions are not as good as they need to be. And so I want to encourage y'all with that. So I'm going to start us out with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for every student, every young person on this Zoom. We pray that you would just give us the perseverance to rake leaves in windy weather. Father, we pray that you would open doors for these students, that they would learn things they've never seen before to bring change to just a hurting country. We love you. We thank you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Oza, for that. I really appreciate you being on. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Sanchez, and I am a youth specialist in the Dallas area. I wanted to have a meeting like this because I really felt like a lot of the youth voices weren't being heard right now. And on top of that, we're kind of in the midst of a pandemic, which also makes it hard for teens to connect with one another, and they don't really have a safe place for that. So with that being said, I kind of just want to go over the rules for this meeting. Number one, there will not be any type of hate speech permitted in this meeting. Um, we will be all about facts and all about peace and love. And the next rule will be to keep yourself muted. If you do have a question during our segments, we ask that you leave a comment in the box to the right, and we will call on you, or you can put yourself on video and like raise your hand, and then the girls will call you accordingly. Other than that, I really hope that this Zoom call helps with what's going on right now. And next up, the girls are each going to introduce themselves. So first up is going to be AB. You're muted, AB.
Sorry, guys. Hi, everybody. My name's Abrianna, but most people call me AB. I am a junior right now at Vanderbilt University studying political science, and I'm a former student of Michael's, and I am just very passionate and in tune about what's going on, and very much agree with Michael's sentiments that we need to educate the youth and how they can get involved if they want to be.
Next up, E.
Hi everyone, I'm Eryka. I'll be a senior, technically like classified as a senior at Texas State University. I'm a public relations major, but I've always been really like passionate about social justice and human rights. So yeah, and I've known Michael since I was like 6 or 7 years old.
Last but not least, Miss J.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jadyn. I am a freshly graduated senior from Midlothian. I'll be attending Texas Tech University in the fall, and I am very passionate about what's going on, a very passionate activist in my community, and a student of Michael's. So today, again, my name is Jadyn. I'll be talking about what's going on right now in the world. Just a brief highlight of everything that's happening. And if I'm looking down at my notes so I don't miss anything. So first off, what has been happening today with the recent George Floyd passing, that has further ignited a fire that has already been going on in the country and the world. We have been tipped over the iceberg with this recent occurrence, and I would like to highlight that George Floyd, although we do respect him and we acknowledge him and what is happening, that is not the main focus of the Black Lives Matter movement. He is just what finally got us over the edge of fighting for what should be right in this country today. With that being said, I would like to address the riots and protests that are going on right now. A lot of people are deciding to host and be a part of peaceful protests, and those, for the most part, are peaceful from the beginning and usually don't start to get violent until there's a police interjection because they're tired of hearing us speak on what's going on. I would like to also state that peaceful protests are happening in all 50 states at the same time, just so that it is known that we are trying to be heard, and we just want people to listen to us and listen to the fact that we are fighting for equity. So, secondly, I would like to address the violence and oppression against the Black community by the citizens and the system of this country, at least. We are trying to I'm trying to think of the right word. We are trying to express what has been going on for such a long time and trying to not be undermined this time when we bring it up, because every time we bring it up, we are further pushed down. And like Eryka said in our meeting yesterday, our parents, grandparents, just generations before us are trying to pass us the baton because they are tired. And if we don't pick it back up, we're going to sink further and further down into a hole of what's going on right now. So with the violence that I'm trying to address, things such as George Floyd, people such as George Floyd, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, and many, too many names that I could be saying right now. It's something that we're trying to call attention to, and something that we are trying to get people to understand why what is happening is so wrong, even though they should know in the first place. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge police brutality that is happening right now, and how usually police are overreacting at these protests. For example, for me personally, I saw a video circulating around of a man and a bunch of other Black men, excuse me, kneeling and expressing his feelings and how he is reacting to the situation right now in a very peaceful way. He was not using any sort of violence. He wasn't yelling. He was just simply stating how he felt as a Black man in this country. And after a while, the line of policemen that he was preaching to, trying to connect to, trying to get that sense of unity with, they got tired of hearing him. So they ended up pulling him out of his kneel, away from the crowd, and arresting him for talking. So just the injustice that is happening today to Black people in this country, in this world, is just so outrageous. Next, what I'll be talking on is how did we get here? So basically just going over previous injustices in the Black community. The fact of the matter is we get here by never really solving the inequality issue in America. Yes, we were freed from slavery, but the problem is that we are still in a position that if you are born Black in this country, you are bound to not do as well as other people. In fact, all minorities are bound to do worse in this country. For example, the fact that per the system, Black people are usually put into Section 8 housing and bad income communities, that leads to a lesser of an education system for Black people, which automatically puts them in a worse position than people who aren't of color. We were just talking about this yesterday, and just the fact that the lack of income to the education system, just like I said before, automatically gives us a lower hand and not an equal chance or opportunity, if that. The payment going into the education system is vital for people to be able to go on to that next step. And the fact that we are automatically put somewhere where we can't get that just automatically, instead we have to fight for it, is the problem that I'm trying to address here today. Systematic oppression and racism against Black people put people into these neighborhoods, and that needs to be fixed. So secondly, I would like to touch back again at the social injustices that are happening to Black people in the system. I briefly mentioned Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Sandra Bland in the topic that I was talking about previously, but I would like to go more in depth about what they actually went through and how this is affecting people of color today. So George Floyd was purchasing something from a convenience store, and the employee that was working thought that he had purchased it with a counterfeit $20 bill. So he called 911, and the police came and then restrained George Floyd by his neck with his knee. I would like to address how protesting and rioting is working, because all of the 4 officers that were there have been charged and arrested, and there's improvement being seen with his case, which is exactly what we wanted, and I'm just so glad that we've gotten that far with that. Second off, I would like to talk about Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor was an EMT. She was in her home with her husband, and she heard people pounding at the door. The police did not acknowledge who they were, and they were pounding for about 30 to 45 seconds. So her husband at the time, who was a licensed gun carrier, got his gun out and shot at the police officers in defense once, and then the police officers then shot over 20 bullets, hitting Breonna Taylor 8 times, killing her. Breonna Taylor, although we had a good success story with George, Breonna still does not have justice for what has happened to her because of the no-knock warrant. And again, just another thing another law that is protecting against the justice of Black people. And I would also like to mention that it is her birthday today. Happy birthday to Breonna Taylor. I hope that she is resting peacefully. I just wanted to highlight that celebration of her life, just because that is also needed in this time. Lastly, I would like to address Sandra Bland. Sandra Bland, although she did have previous things on her record, still does not give the system or police any right to do what was done to her. She was an activist, just like the three of us that are on this call right now. She started to be very advocate about that in January of 2015. And she was just saying that she was trying to do God's work and to have everyone see exactly what she is going through. And the fact that this injustice was done to her, when in reality she was just trying to bring forth God's message, is really upsetting to me. And if you're not familiar with what happened to Sandra Bland was the unfortunate case to where she was already deceased before they took her mugshot, and they taped her eyes open and took her mugshot while she was after she had been murdered. So I believe there is no justice that has been provided to the people, or stressed to the people that have committed this crime against her. So even though we have these great success stories that are happening, like George Floyd, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. That is exactly what I was trying to get at with telling you these two stories of those two lovely women. Yes, it is great that we are getting progress, and you need to keep protesting so that we can get more progress, but it also needs to be illuminated that there is still progress that needs to be done, a lot more progress. And I believe that is all I have for my section.
All right, is there any questions or any comments that anyone would like to make right now? This is all about learning and educating, honestly. So if you are a youth, or even if you are an adult that would like to speak and question things for your youth, that would be much appreciated, and the girls would love to answer your questions. If not, we'll be moving on to Eryka, I believe, or Abrianna. Abrianna, okay. We'll be moving on to Abrianna. Thank you so much, Jadyn, for that information. Next up is AB.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about how, well, first off, how to protest, how to do so safely, and we're going to call that Protesting 101. And then after that happens, I'm going to also speak on how you can get involved with the movement, even if you don't protest due to various reasons, just knowing that there are many other ways that you can get involved. So first of all, let's talk about protesting. The very first thing I want everybody here to know, that y'all probably already know, is that protesting is your right. According to the First Amendment, we have the right to assembly and the right to speak our voice on any problems that we feel need to be addressed by our government and any other public figures. So if anybody, tells you not to go out protesting because you can get in trouble and things like that, yes, there have been conflicts going on surrounding that, but know that protesting is your right as a citizen of the United States. And following that, just know that practicing this right and exercising this right, it is strongest when it's happening on traditional public forums. And by this, I mean protesting on streets, protesting on sidewalks, protesting on parks. This also includes public places such as plazas and government buildings, just so long as you're not blocking the entrance or interfering with any of the property's purposes. Alongside this, you also have the right to photograph and videotape anything that is within the public view. And you don't need any type of permit to protest anything like that. As long as you're not obstructing traffic, you can go, as long as you're not obstructing traffic and causing any clear or present danger to the community, then you can go and protest when you like over whatever problem you feel the community needs to address. However, I also wanted to point out, since I'm talking about protesters' rights, that counter protesters also have the same rights as protesters. So just if you do see counter protesters out there, know that we may not agree with them, and yes, they may be working against us, but technically, as long as they are not causing physical harm in that moment to others in the community, they have the same rights as protesters do. The second thing I want to address is whether or not policemen can break up protests. Lawfully, the police force cannot break up a peaceful protest if it does not present a clear and present danger and if it does not obstruct traffic. As of late, this is something that we see has been violated. So from here, I will go on to talking about what to do in case this is violated. Now, lately, as we've seen in many of the peaceful protests and non-peaceful protests, it has become very possible to get into a conflict with a police officer or a law enforcement agent. And so if this happens, the very first thing I want to address is make sure that you have the contact of some legal firm or lawyer on your body. Like literally write it on your person, most likely on your forearm. You can write it on your stomach, anywhere you can write it on. And this is so if you are detained by the police department, they will most likely take any belongings that you have. So if you have that on your arm, that can be a phone call that you make to make sure that you have the representation that you need if you feel like your rights have been violated. Now, if you do get into a conflict with the police, first and foremost, whether or not it is against your rights or not, in order to keep you safe, make sure that your hands are visible and don't fight back or refuse or do anything that can be seen as obstruction of justice, because that just gives them more ammo to use against you if a case were to go to court. So just keep your hands visible and don't fight back. However, in order to make sure that your rights are not being violated, the very first thing that you should do is calmly ask, what law are you violating, and state that you have the right to peaceful assembly. If they cannot give you a law that you are violating, and if they cannot, of course, strip you of your right to peaceful assembly, then lawfully they should let you go. And if they let you go, leave the scene and you can continue protesting elsewhere. However, if you are detained, first of all, know that you do not have to consent to a bodily search of any kind without a warrant. The police can pat you down, but they cannot search any of your items unless they have a warrant, and don't let them tell you otherwise. Second of all, know that if you are detained, you have one phone call, and if it's to a lawyer, the police cannot listen in. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about writing a lawyer or legal firm's phone number on your arm, because if that is the one phone call that you choose to make, the police cannot listen into that phone call, and this ensures that you can get representation, as is also your right for exercising your rights and having those rights violated. And the next thing I want to address is if you feel like you were unlawfully detained and that your rights were violated by this law enforcement official, take down all the information about the officer you can, including their name and badge number if possible. These two are going to be very, very crucial, because this allows you to file a complaint with their internal affairs division or a civilian complaint board. Second of all, photograph any injuries sustained from the confrontation. This just acts as evidence in support of you, and also get as many witnesses as you can. And just so you know, if you are wanting to file a complaint with Internal Affairs Division or the Civilian Complaint Board, all you literally have to do is just Google Internal Affairs Division and your city, or Civilian Complaint Board and your city, and a contact for them and a website for them will come up to where you can go and file a complaint if you feel like your rights have been violated. Now, the next thing I want to talk about with protesting is having a plan of action. No matter what, whether it's a peaceful protest, whether it's a peaceful protest that turns violent, whether it was a violent protest to begin with, either way, You need to have a plan of action. First of all, never go protesting alone. If possible, especially as a young adult, take at least 2 people with you. This just ensures your safety. There is always safety in numbers. And as I said, if your rights are violated by having more people with you, you will just have more witnesses to attest to your account. Second of all, have a point to meet if the people you come with get split up. This just ensures safety further. And then also have an exit strategy in case things turn for the worse. So if things were to start getting violent, if the police started tear gassing, anything like that, make sure that you have an exit strategy to get out of there as safely and as quickly as possible. Also, make sure that your phone is fully charged before leaving. And I want to reiterate this, have a lawyer or legal group's phone number readily available just in case you need that type of representation. And I also wanted to state that just in case tear gassing or anything of the sort is coming up, with tear gas, the simplest way to protect yourself is clothing. Tear gas cannot penetrate clothing. This is something that I learned as a weapons of mass destruction student. It can't penetrate clothing, so wearing long sleeves, wearing pants, wearing high socks, wearing your mask, things like that. That is some of the best ways to protect yourself if tear gassing were to happen. And if it does happen, also make sure to shield your eyes, especially if you don't have any type of glassware on. Shield your eyes as best as you can because those parts are the most vulnerable to tear gassing. And the final thing that I wanted to address with protesting is just stay healthy while protesting. What we are protesting for is a very big issue that has been happening 200 plus years. The system being against Black people is a tragedy that has been happening for centuries upon centuries. But as we protest, we still have to be cognizant of what's going on right now, which is we are in the middle of a pandemic. So as you go out protesting, make sure that you wear a mask, especially since the 6-foot rule has been not as important within the protest. Make sure that you wear a mask. Second of all, if you're sick, stay home. There are so many other ways to get involved, which I will talk about shortly after this, and just stay home and use these other venues that will help keep you and others safe and healthy. Alrighty, so next I'm going to talk about how to get involved without protesting. And just I want to address this beforehand. If you don't choose to go out into the streets and physically protest, either due to you having anxiety or due to you being sick, whatever reason it may be, that does not mean that you don't support the movement. There are many other ways to support the movement, so don't get down on yourself and tell yourself like, oh, I'm not supporting enough or I'm not Black enough. Know that there are many other ways to support the movement. The first way that you can do this is through donations. There are many funds, whether it's organizational funds or bail funds that you can give to that are national and some local ones. A few national ones a national one is the George Floyd Memorial Fund, which one gives to his memorial, but then also it also gives to the processing of the officers who were responsible for his murder, and as well to the movement of keeping those officers from ever being able to be in enforcement ever again under any circumstances. Another fund that you can give to, which is a local Dallas fund, is the 400+1 bail fund, which was actually created for a Black man who was arrested in Dallas and scared of catching COVID-19 in jail. Another Dallas specific fund is the Luke 418 bail fund. And alongside this, there is a plethora of Black-led organizations in the Dallas area or whatever area you may be in and nationwide that you can find simply by Googling Black-led organizations and your city name. The next thing you can do is sign petitions. If you don't have any money, you can still show your support. And signing petitions can be really easy, guys. It can be as easy as sending a text. One of the texts you can send is Floyd, FLOYD, to 55156. And this is a color of change petition, which demands that all 4 officers responsible for Floyd's death be banned from ever working in the police force in the future under any circumstances. And then you can also text Justice, JUSTICE, to 668-366. And then both of these also have websites that you can go and give at. And I just wanted to let y'all know that I will be including a link to a Google Doc shortly after I finish speaking, which will have all of the links that I've said here and plus more, as well as like where you can text, where you can give. It'll have a plethora of information that you can have readily at your disposal if you need it. And so just so you know, there are other petitions that you can look up simply by their name, such as the Justice for Breonna Taylor petition, the hashtag Defund the Police petition, the NCAA Defense Fund petition. And there's also one petition that I thought was really cool that I know I'll be participating in, which is a video petition done off of colorofchange.org, where you can literally film yourself demanding change or demanding justice for George Floyd alongside Breonna Taylor, which I feel like is a very strong way to use your voice. Another way that you can protest without going into the streets is just simply reaching out. Write letters to your local and state governments, your House and Senate representatives, and to find out who they are, it's as simple as looking up who is my Senate representative and then putting in your area code. Like, that is simple, and you can email them, you can call them, you can even write them a letter if you want to be old-fashioned, but just reaching out to them and letting them know that you're passionate about this, that you are demanding for change, and that you're not going to rest until you see change. That is some of the best way to, one, make sure that the people who are representing you are really representing you, and two, to just have your voice heard in general. I've also included a link by USA Today, which gives a great list of contacts of various government offices that are at least partially responsible for the current injustices that we are fighting against right now. And again, you can contact these offices personally through email or mail or phone call demanding justice. Another way that you can support is just by pushing for a more accurate account of Black history in school. I mean, I was just told the other day that they put the civil rights movement in black and white in textbooks so that we think that it happened longer ago than what it actually occurred. So this is just, one of the examples of the misrepresentation of Black culture and Black history throughout education. So just reaching out to your local superintendents, to the Texas Education Agency or whatever state you're in, their education agency, reaching out to your state and local officials, telling them that we need to improve how Black history is taught in school, and so that it's also not just taught during Black History Month. Just reaching out and letting them know that we need change too. And then the very last way that I'm going to speak on how you can get involved without going to the streets is just supporting Black-owned businesses. There are a plethora of Black-owned businesses in many different places, and I've actually included a link of Black-owned businesses in the DFW area, or a guide to them at least, in the Google Doc. And, just by supporting them allows the Black community to gain more prominence and presence in general. So as y'all see, getting involved is easy, whether it's, wanting to go and protest, or wanting to do it from the comfort of your home even, or wanting to go out and see how Black people are in their community in general. There are so many different ways to get involved. So yeah, that's all I have. Sorry for the long talk. I was only given 5 to 8 minutes, but I think everybody who knows me knows that that's not fair.
Is there any questions or anything that they would like to ask Abrianna? I see that she has uploaded the Google Doc that she had just mentioned, where you can find all the information she just talked about. Also, another way that we can make a change also is voting. So if you are of age, and this year is a voting year, but not only voting during those times, voting all the other times. So those will help make an effective change in your community on top of in our country. So next up is Eryka, and she will let you know what she's talking about.
Am I muted? I'm not muted. Oh, okay. Hi guys, I'm Eryka again. I'm gonna be talking about how non-Black people or non-people of color can still help and make a difference. A lot of people are feeling like if they're not African American, then like this is just not their fight, or they just don't have any idea like what they should be doing because they feel like they don't have the same presence as we do because they don't have the same hardships as we're facing. So I just have like a few things that you can do. And if you have friends who have been wanting to get involved and don't know how, and they're not Black or African American or people of color, then you can always like write these down as I'm talking or relay these to them. So the first one I have is something that people can do of all ages, even people who are young and feel like they really want to get involved somehow, but maybe their parents won't let them go protest or they don't have their own money to donate, or aren't allowed to like use the internet even to sign petitions, is you can do something as simple as making signs for people who do want to protest. And you can make them for people you know personally who are going to go protest, or you can always like donate them to like your neighbors or older siblings who are going to protest. And there's a whole bunch of different powerful messages that you can write down, and they can get captured by all types of like news people and just other protesters out, and your message is still being heard in one way, and you didn't have to even like leave your house. And then another thing is donating. So you can donate to bail funds. A lot of lawyers are doing a lot of pro bono work right now because they understand that we really shouldn't be getting arrested at protests because we have the right to do so, but it's happening nonetheless. So a lot of people are, defending these people for free because, no one really is expecting to get arrested when they go to protest. So you can always donate to bail funds. There's some I know the global bail fund there's one in Dallas and one in Houston, but there's like national bail funds, and you can just donate to the city of your choice. It doesn't have to be Dallas or Grand Prairie. It can be wherever you want. Also, there's GoFundMe's for a lot of people. I know a guy at my school was shot in the head by the police officers on like at the end of the end of May. And we raised like $65,000 in like 24 hours, just by GoFundMe. And you can, do as little as 50 cents or $1 up to like $10,000. It doesn't matter, and it's up to you. And you can also donate anonymously if that's something that you want to do. But these things are really powerful and they really do make a difference. A lot of people, don't expect these things to happen, especially because these people are dying at such young ages, and it's just not really supposed to happen like that. So no one's really just has like a fund sitting aside for a funeral and stuff like that. So for us to be able to help and donate is like a really big thing. So there's also donations to like the Black Lives Matter Global Network and the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, which works to defend human and civil rights, including racial injustices that are happening in this country. And that's exactly what we're experiencing right now. And then another thing for people who aren't African American or people of color who do want to go out and protest, there's something that has been shown on social media that looks very helpful and effective, which is when you are at a protest and the African Americans are being targeted by police officers, making yourself be a physical like barrier between the police officers and someone who's African American has shown to save their lives at some points. Police officers, for some reason, just will not attack somebody who's white. They just won't do it. So there's been a lot of white people who are stepping in front of African Americans when they're kneeling, when they're doing a standoff or whatever the case may be, and immediately the police will back off. And that can save lives, because I don't know why, but they just won't attack the people of Caucasian descent. Um, Another thing that's pretty easy, and sometimes it may seem like it's not a lot, but anything that you're doing and is going to be something, even if it's small, is to spread awareness. Social media is like running a lot of our lives right now, especially with quarantine. We just don't have anything better to do. So just by posting maybe like one thing a day or a few things a day on social media about what's going on, different linking different petitions and donation sites, just even typing uplifting words to help people get through this time would be really helpful. The hashtag Black Lives Matter has like millions of tweets and millions of posts on Instagram, and it's all linked to like information that can help, further along this fight and get us further down the road towards justice. And another thing that Abrianna already touched on was signing petitions, and I kind of already said it too. Just find different petitions. I promise you, there's a petition for anything you want to find. Like there's petitions for all of the people that we've already named: Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. People are still signing that petition. Justin Howell, just everybody that has been murdered by police officers, everyone who has just been discriminated against by these police officers has a GoFundMe, I promise you. And another thing is that when people are tweeting Black Lives Matter, especially as a non-person of color or a non-African American person, it's kind of unnecessary. Like simply just saying Black Lives Matter and then going about your day is not really showing much support. I feel like it's definitely appreciated to know that you care and enough to like get that out there. But I feel like this fight is, if it's only us fighting, it's not going to be as significant, and we're not going to make as much progress as if we would when we have like other people with us. So like even if you aren't African American, or your friends who aren't African American and want to help, like give them the resources, give them the links and the databases so that they can, further promote and get everything out there, if that makes sense. And then another thing that Abrianna also touched on is to, write letters to your local and state senators and, the mayor, the DA's office. Just look up your city and write these letters. A lot of people, when they have parole hearings, want when they're having parole hearings, having letters that attest to why these people are great people and should not be behind bars really do help them. And sometimes, so if you personally know somebody who's in jail and doesn't deserve to be there, write letters, even if they don't have a hearing coming up. Just so show your support, because it's not something that's taken lightly, no matter if you think so or not. And then that's all I have for my first segment.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Eryka. Moving on, next up is Jadyn, and she'll let you know.
Okay, hi again. Right now, I will be addressing the mental health issues and problems during these times. Just to highlight that, like, mental health issues are a spectrum, and that it is not just one set thing that somebody can be feeling. There can definitely be more range to what somebody is feeling versus what somebody else is feeling, even if they have the same mental health issue. So just to touch on anxiety first, because anxiety is definitely one of the major mental health issues that could be affected right now. I just have some tips for anybody who has anxiety. Number one would be to take frequent breaks from social media and news outlets. Yes, it is important to stay informed, and yes, it is important to be a consistent activist during these times, and I can even take my own advice. But just know that it is okay to stray away from the trauma that social media can have on you, and how violent everything is right now. This is not dismissing it or saying that it's not important, obviously, but just know that it is important to take you time to recharge, and then you can come back fully ready to combat what is happening. Next would be journaling. Journaling, or just like writing down how you feel, can also help you get some things off of your mind so that you're not so just like in your head the whole time that this is happening. Writing down your feelings and writing down what's going through your brain can help you process things, on top of also getting a lot of that stress out of your head. So make sure that you're doing that. You can express how you're tired. You can express how you're exhausted for fighting for these types of things, because they should be already in place. But again, journaling can also help with that. So that's all I'm going to say on anxiety. Just to, again, make sure that you're taking you time with these things, and that you're not putting yourself in too much of a stressful situation. Sorry, I'm trying to rearrange my windows right now so that I can provide the right information. So second off, I'm going to address depression. I know when people have depression, it is a literal chemical imbalance in your brain. So simply telling somebody with depression to get over something like this, or to think positively about things like this, isn't always going to work. But what I would advise you, personally, one of my tips would be to try and stay on the positive side of activism for this movement. Yes, the ugly and dirty things that are going on right now are equally as important and need to be seen. But for you, we would rather you be advocating on the positive side of things, and you be consistent on that side, instead of seeing everything that is detrimental to your brain and your health. Again, going back to having you time. So as everyone has been stating, do your own part that you see is fit for you to be a parent and active in this movement. Parents, I'm talking to you right now. Yes, your mental health is 100% valid. Make sure that you are doing okay, but also that you are reaching out to your kids and making sure that they are okay. There are a lot of young kids right now that are going through this, and they shouldn't be. So I've personally have just seen so many kids that are protesting, which is unacceptable in my book. I don't think that that 6-year-old should be walking the streets chanting "No justice, no peace." Innocence should not be taken away from the lives of 6-year-olds, you know? So with all of that being said, what is happening right now, make sure you're checking in on your kids, making sure that they're doing okay, asking them how they feel on the situations, getting their viewpoint, helping them understand what is going on, and just being there for them, truly. I have some resources that I will link later to counselors. I couldn't get the price ranges for them because that would have I would have had to contact, and I don't want to give any false clientele to anybody. So I believe that most of them are low price though, and I am putting together a Google Doc of all of the resources that I have for counselors and Black therapy. Also some a list of counselors that can aid for you and your kids. So secondly, I want to address physical health since we are already addressing mental health. Really quick, I'm going to plug up my computer because it says it's going to die. But as I'm walking this way, I want to address the fact that there are going to be people who suffer from physical illnesses that need assistance during this time. And I would just like to highlight how you should react to those things during protests so that you don't cause like a scene, if that makes sense. Basically, what I'm trying to highlight is how you can address these medical problems without making it seem like aggression and violence is being started, because if you rush over to the person, it is known for police to freak out about those sort of things and then just go crazy. So I just have some tips for that. So I'm looking to the right of me, so if you see me kind of straying, I have some websites pulled up that will also be in the doc that I will link down in the comments. So firstly, let's talk about a first aid kit that you can bring with you. A lot of the information on the Red Cross website has to make sure that you have your own personal medicines that you need. Make sure you have contacts, emergency contacts that you are confident will be able to pick up the phone, or like Abrianna was talking about, if you want to keep a lawful number in there so that if you need to reach like a lawyer, have that in there too, but also have it on your body. Check the kit regularly. Make sure that the medicine in there is not expired. And if it is, to throw it out and recycle it so that you can have good, valid medicine and resources that are still in date. Make sure that you have compressed dressings, adhesive bandages, cloth tape, antibiotic ointment, antiseptic white packs, things like that, aspirin, just the common medicines that you would keep at home, just compartmentalized into a first aid kit that you can take with you everywhere in your car. I am not going to read all of the things that you need in there because that will be linked in the Google Doc for you to go and look at, because I don't want to waste time. So just know that there is a list that you can see for the resources that you need in that first aid kit. Secondly, I'm going to address how you can help somebody if you're in a protest with medical issues. So before you administer care to any ill or injured person, make sure that you, sorry, I just had a mind blank. Make sure that you size up the scene. Make sure that you're seeing if it's safe for you to enter, because if it's not safe for you to enter, then that is more detrimental to the person that is hurt if you cannot help them either. So make sure that you're asking yourself, is it safe to approach? What happened and who else is around that could be helping you? If the person is awake, responsive, and has no like life-threatening issues or bleeding, introduce yourself to them and ask them their permission if you can help them in that situation. Direct a bystander to grab supplies, or be the bystander that can grab supplies if you feel as though you are not equipped to perform these types of deeds. Make sure that you try and access someone who does. So talk to the person, check them over, and provide appropriate care to them. Third, if the person is not responsive, don't spend any more than 5 to 10 seconds shouting their name, tapping them on the shoulder and on the foot to check for breathing, because those are the sites to awaken somebody if they are non-responsive. If the person is breathing, direct bystanders to call 911 and grab an AED if available, and the first aid kit that I was talking to you guys about. And lastly, if the person is not breathing, direct bystanders to call 911 and begin CPR. So if you are not, this is just a fair warning, if you are not experiencing any sort of CPR, I would not engage in that just because you could do something wrong, and we are here to follow safety hazards and rules. So just make sure that you are either doing these acts or you are the bystander helping somebody doing these acts, because it is important and vital that we get somebody who is in trouble to safety. And that leads me to my last topic of seizures. Seizures are seizures usually don't need 911 attention. You should only call 911 if seizures occur in somebody that has never had them before, if they have difficulty breathing or walking during the seizures, if it lasts longer than 5 minutes, if the person has a seizure right after they just had another one, if the person is hurt during the seizure, if the seizure happens in water, and if they have an underlying health condition. Those are the only instances where you need to call 911 with seizures happening. But I will let you know what you do need to do just briefly if a seizure is happening and you don't know what to do. So stay with the person until the seizure ends and he or she is fully awake. After it ends, help the person sit in a safe place. Once they are alert and able to communicate, tell them what happened in very simple terms. It is important to break it down to them simply because you don't need to overwhelm them with a lot of information. Don't freak out, be very calm about it, and just don't make it seem like it was very scary, obviously, but don't make it seem like it to them, because then they'll freak out and they can maybe have another one, and that can cause another seizure. Comfort the person and speak to them calmly, like I just said. The list that I'm reading off of, again, will be linked below, but I'm letting you know this so that it can maybe absorb into your brain and your body. Check to see if the person is wearing a medical bracelet or other emergency information. This is how you can tell if they have any underlying health issues, which I stated before. You might not think that it is a 911 situation, but again, you don't know if they have any emergency bracelets or anything on by first glance. So just check on them and see if they have any underlying issues so that you can get them the help that they need. Lastly, offer to call like a taxi or another person to make sure the person gets home safely. I would advise you to not stay at a protest if you had a seizure, because if you have another one, that can be detrimental to you and you need to calm down and relax. Again, going along with the mental health, but also physical health, you can take time to yourself. We, as a community, have so many people fighting for what's going on right now that if you need to take a day, it's okay. There are other people here to fight for you, and they will be ready to have a rest day when you come back. It is okay. Here are the actual actions that you need to do during the seizure, when someone is having a seizure. As for what I was saying was more so after. Ease the person onto the floor if you notice them shaking or they start to have their eyes roll back. Turn them on their side, just like you would do if someone is throwing up. This helps them breathe and not choke on anything. Don't put anything in their mouth. I will lead to the do nots later, but that just reminded me, don't put anything in their mouth because they usually cannot do anything with their body. They are immobile. So yeah, just make sure not to put anything in their mouth because that could break a tooth, rupture something in the mouth, things like that. Clear the area around them of anything hard or sharp that prevents injury, just because they are vaulting uncontrollably. So that is just in in preparation for being safe for that person. Put something soft and flat like a jacket or a blanket under the person's head, just so that when they are seizing, they're not hitting their head on the ground. And if they are, it'll be on your jacket so it doesn't cause further injury. Remove eyeglasses, loosen ties or anything around the neck. And lastly, time the seizure. The seizure should not be longer than 5 minutes. If it is longer than 5 minutes, that is when you need to call 911. Lastly, on this, here are the do nots when someone is having a seizure during a protest. Do not hold the person down or try to stop his or her movements. That can be detrimental to you and to the person. Do not put anything in the person's mouth. Like I just said, it'll injure teeth or the jaw. They cannot swallow his or her tongue. So you don't have to worry about that. Just try and comfort them and provide a safe space for them, and let it dilute. Do not try to give mouth-to-mouth breaths like CPR. Usually people start breathing right after their seizure. They regain that, so don't try to give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And lastly, do not offer the person water or food until they are fully alert. If they are still hazy, they may not be able to properly chew and swallow the food, which can be a choking hazard. And they could also choke on the drink. So make sure you are not offering anything to them unless they are fully aware of what's going on and you've already explained to them what has happened. So that's all of my take on physical health and mental health. The only thing I would add to this is conversations need to keep going and keep flowing about these situations. It is important to take care of yourself as well as advocating for this movement. Yeah, that's all I have.
All right, so next up is Eryka, and you have the floor.
Okay. So my next thing is how this is basically, I'm just talking to the students and the kids who are on here. This is how this affects your future, why you should care now, why you should take the time to educate yourself on what's happening and why it's happening. So firstly, I just want to say that the youth is already, just like nationwide, starting to get a better understanding of what's going on. It's kind of starting to hit them that, because of the color of my skin, like I won't be given the same opportunities at life, at work, at anything as my white peers. And it's sad, but it's necessary. Nobody wants to be, dealing with this during their childhood. And like Jadyn said, there are a little 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds who are protesting right now all over the country because they're mad. And, they have a right to be, but it's sad that, they're having like this realization so young, but it's good that they are, taking this opportunity to get involved and make a difference at this young age. So basically, this has been a fight that started long before any of us were born, and it will continue long after any of us die, unfortunately. So our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors have already done so much to get us to where we are now that it would make literally no sense for us to not pick, take the torch and keep going. Like it would be like for nothing if we don't keep going. And then also like what we're doing now is going to impact kids and children generations to come. And it's important that they have something that they have history to learn from, and understanding of why they should continue to go on. I don't think it's really up to us, or we shouldn't really even have a say on if we want to or not um, fight this fight, because it's our lives, it's our, you know, it's our being. Like, it's not like something that should be taken lightly. I feel like, as we've already said, there's a lot of ways that you can, get involved without, putting yourself on the front lines and risking your physical life. But you should be getting involved in some way, form, or fashion. And then also, oh, so another thing is that the youth is very powerful. A lot, like, we are kind of known for thinking that no one really listens to us and no one really cares what we have to say, and we just have to wait our turn until we're adults so that people will listen to us. But people watch us and people listen to us. We have the power to impact other students and other children, as well as adults who just for some reason are not engaging in this movement. When they see us, caring and being so passionate about it at a young age, it inspires them to want to do the same and get involved as well. And that in itself is a huge deal, because it's, making our movement and our impact that much stronger, that many more people wider. And that's important. So by joining this, joining this fight, you don't have to just protest, but you will, inspire people no matter what you do. Like, you can even, go into your own neighborhoods or your schools when school starts and, make a club, or, find a facilitator to help you get together, like a monthly meeting to just talk about these things, or whatever you do. Like, it can start small, and before you know it, you'll have like so many followers and people wanting to help you make this into something. So yeah, if anyone is feeling like you can't do much because you're young and you don't have any impact, you don't really have a voice, even if your parents aren't comfortable like letting you go and protest, there's things that you can do, we've already said, like from the comfort of your home, from the safety of your neighborhoods, or the walls of your own school or church, that can catch a lot of wind and make a lot of a difference. That's all.
All right, thank you, Eryka. So the next person we have up is one of the last people that we will have talking today. This is Deja Porter, and she is actually a teacher for DISD. She has been out at the protest providing water and snacks for the people protesting, and she has been doing such an amazing job for not only her community, but for the kids that she teaches as well. So Miss Deja Porter is up.
Sorry guys, I'm still here. I'm getting ready to leave. How y'all doing today? Everybody good? All right. Amen. Thumbs up. All right. My voice is gone. I was trying to preserve it. I came back to the car a while ago to try to get my life together. So if I sound like I've been smoking a pack of cigarettes a day for 30 years, I'm sorry. But like Michael said, I am a DISD teacher as well. I teach Black and brown students all day, every day. So for me, it was more so not, it was my responsibility. I felt like to come out here and be a part of something greater than me. Some of my kids actually came out today, with their parents, and they were like, I saw you out there, I've been seeing you out there, so we came out here too. So, like Lil Baby said, you never really know, adult, child, whoever, you never really know who is looking at you. You never know who's watching you. You never know what impact you have on people. And I wouldn't say that that kids aren't heard, that the youth aren't heard. If you think back to the civil rights movement, the people who organized most of everything they started the NAACP with teenagers, with people that were freshmen and sophomores in college. SNCC, and the bus boycotts, a lot of that when they went to the bridge and the boycotts in Selma, those were led by student activists. So I don't want anybody that's on here that's young to ever feel like because you are young that your voice isn't being heard, or that whatever you're protesting doesn't matter. Because remember, Dr. Martin Luther King started when he was in college. He was a college student when he started. He was not, 35, 38 years old. And if y'all remember, Dr. King didn't die old. He got assassinated when he was still in his prime. That man got assassinated when he was still in his prime. I don't want to say an age because I'm not sure, but it starts somewhere. You don't have to be a councilman in City Hall. You don't have to be a principal or a legislator or a senate. Wherever you feel like your lane is, and I know that's been repetitive throughout this session, whatever you feel like your lane is, find your lane. There's so many ways to advocate for equal rights. And I'm sorry, y'all, it's just, these type of things just really get me kind of emotional because I'm out here. I've been out here every day since Tuesday, and I'm watching kids, I'm watching teenagers, I'm watching adults, I'm watching everybody come together peacefully. Forget what the news is talking about. I've been here. I've been here every day from about 1 to 7 every day. It's peaceful. Are there some fools? Yes. There are some fools. It is always one bad apple that's going to spoil the bunch. But don't let those fools take away your narrative. Don't let one or two people take away your narrative. Redirect the conversation. And when I was talking to the girls yesterday, I mentioned it again, Michael said I am a teacher. For those of you who have ever been in the classroom, as far as a high school student, teacher, camp director, camp counselor, you have kids who have bad days. People have bad days. They act a fool. They might throw something at somebody. They might fight. They might cuss. They might do whatever. But until you have a conversation with that person, until you say, why? What's going on? What's the matter, baby? Calm down. What's wrong? You'll never get to the root of the problem if you don't ask, if you don't direct the conversation. People are going to say all day, the thing it's been Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter versus why should Black Lives Matter if black on black crime is relevant? Let me tell y'all something. Per the U.S. Justice of Statistics, U.S. Bureau Justice of Statistics, I'm sorry, whatever. If you look at the statistics, 78% of crimes committed are crimes against the same color. They are the crimes that are in your community, black communities, white communities, Hispanic communities, whatever community. There is no such thing as black on black crime. That is a narrative that has been given to us because when a white man kills another white man, do they call it white on white crime? No. They say that white man just killed that other white man. But when black people kill each other, which no, that is not a good thing. No, I'm not condoning that. However, redirect the narrative. Black people are killing each other. But what is the root to why some of these people are killing each other? When you look at these low-income neighborhoods and you look at neighborhoods where I'll say maybe Holland Hills, and you're looking at the Pinks, and you're looking at the Browns, you're looking at all these projects, the way that the projects were built in a one-way in, one-way out situation. When you can't afford to pay, I'm going to come live downtown, I can't afford to pay $1,500 in rent, I'm applying for Section 8. Where do they put you in Section 8? They put you in a low-income neighborhood. You have people that are living in these neighborhoods, they tired. They tired of being poor, and they're put in these situations like monkey see, monkey do. That's the neighborhood that you grow up in. Not everybody makes it out. You either make it out or you make it out in the body bag sometimes. So make sure that you guys are controlling the narrative of these conversations. Find out why people are so angry. Find out why people are so upset. Find out why they don't understand that It's not about all lives matter. And we know all lives matter. Everybody, at the end of the day, there's only one race, and it's the human race. Period, point in the blank. However, people, we all are, America is a melting pot. America is a melting pot of all different types of nationalities. If I turn my camera around right now, because I'm still down here at the protest, it's a group of young men. One is Hispanic, one is Asian, a couple of them are Black. They're all standing together in joint and unity down here for the same cause. That Asian guy knows that his life matters. That Hispanic guy knows that his life matters. But at the end of the day, today, our conversation is that Black lives matter just as much as anybody else's. All we want is the same rights as everybody else, as a supremacy. We don't want to always look for a reason for somebody to push us up. We need to be able to push each other up. We need to be able to push ourselves up. And then, yes, there is a conversation that needs to be had, because there has been 400 years of oppression to bring about this conversation, because should be no reason why we are still saying Black Lives Matter. There should be no reason why we're still having this conversation after 400 years of oppression. There's systematic racism. There's systematic oppression. How do we get to the roots of those conversations so that way we can make changes in our communities and make changes in what we're seeing? I want you guys to understand a lot of these laws like segregation, Jim Crow, all of that started at the state and local level. At the state and local level. So if you want a law to be passed, it has to start at the state and local level. It starts in our communities. Redirect the conversation, control the narrative. And that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Deja, for joining us. It's really appreciated.
You're welcome.
And Deja is taking donations. I know she's not going to break it up herself, but she's still going to be at the protest and stuff. So if you would like to donate, please reach out to me, and I will connect you with her so that you can help provide the protesters with water and snacks. Other than that, this is it for today's talk. Thank you so much for participating today, and thank you to everybody who decided to talk. We want to possibly turn this into a weekly thing so that the youth do have a place to talk. So if you have teens, or if you know any teens, direct them to us, because we would like to continue the conversation. And not just this conversation, but generic conversations, because it is a tough time right now, because we are basically in a pandemic right now for COVID-19 and also for Black Lives Matter. And we all need to be having these conversations. So I'll let the girls say their goodbyes, but thank you for so much for participating